has always been a love-hate relationship with the American gangster.
Greed, corruption, what happens when everything you want is at your feet?
It's the dark side of the American dream.
Boardwalk Empire is set in 1920 in Atlantic City. The series actually begins on the day Prohibition is enacted.
Prohibition!
Alcohol is now suddenly illegal, and the man who runs the city, Nucky Thompson, is open to doing business with people who want to import that alcohol.
So, cheers.
Now, Nucky Thompson is not a real gangster. He's corrupt.
His world is about to shift from basic sort of local corruption to violent world of gangsters and all those illegal things that come with it.
We see the beginnings of what we term now as the underworld. We see the development of it. We see the conditions within which it flourished. A major condition was political corruption.
As soon as Prohibition went into effect, it was cause for celebration for anybody with any kind of power, and anybody who was on the wrong side of the law, because it meant they could make a lot more money.
In a couple of days, the town's gonna be swimming in it.
They can drown for all I care, as long as they pay.
Atlantic City is different than any other city during Prohibition because it's its own little kingdom on the ocean.
Atlantic City became a major port of entry because whoever wanted to bring in booze was not going to be hassled.
Starting from January 16, 1920, with this extraordinary experiment of Prohibition, the whole culture changed.
One of the main unintended consequences of the noble experiment of Prohibition was organized crime.
The show has incorporated all these real-life figures like Arnold Rothstein, Lucky Luciano, and Al Capone.
It's not Lucky Luciano and Al Capone that we know today. It's the youth version. They're gangster toddlers that are just beginning.
Could you fix us up or no? We'll take all we can get up to 2,000 crates a month. For starters.
You young fellas. No appreciation for the art of conversation.
Before I wrote a word of the script, I knew Martin Scorsese would be an executive producer on the show. When I wrote the pilot, Marty really loved it, and at one point he said, wow, I would like to direct this. One of the next questions was, well, how do you think we should move this forward with HBO? And I said, well, if you pick up the phone and say the words you just said to me, I want to direct this, that will probably move this forward very quickly.
Bringing Marty to the table opened up the floodgates. Everybody wants to be a part of his work.
I've always been interested in the idea of the long form, almost novel-like approach to storytelling.
You fellas ever hear of sleep?
Who can sleep with all this excitement?
Heard you had a lucky streak.
Luck had nothing to do with it.
The character Nucky Thompson on the show is largely based on the real-life Nucky Johnson. The reason I fictionalized it was because I didn't want to be beholden to the actual life of Nucky Johnson. I wanted our character to do things, perhaps, that the real Nucky Johnson didn't do.
Nucky is a politician first. He doesn't view himself as a gangster at all.
Nucky Thompson is the treasurer of Atlantic City, but in fact, he runs the entire town.
He's like the puppet master, you know, he's got his finger in all the pies.
He does very well, but he needs to be elected.
He's the pillar of the community, but he's making a lot of money for himself, of course.
And now with Prohibition, he's going to get an even bigger piece of the action.
It also didn't hurt that his brother was the sheriff.
He's capable of whatever it takes in order to keep this power that we hold right now on Atlantic City.
Nucky is involved with a former Ziegfeld showgirl named Lucy.
She really loves him and wants to be with him.
I'd have a baby if that's what you want.
What?
She's very sexy when she wants to be, but a pretty vulnerable person.
Nucky Thompson can be both benevolent and cruel, and Steve Buscemi does it so subtly.
Steve has this extraordinary ability to play characters that have a vivid emotional depth. You could feel it, you could see it.
Tell me how I can help you.
We first meet Margaret Schroeder, who's played by Kelly MacDonald in the pilot. She is a local woman who comes to Nucky for help.
I think there's more to Margaret than meets the eye.
She's intriguing to Nucky. It's not the type of woman that he's used to.
Margaret is both a victim and a survivor.
There's a little flame inside Margaret that is keeping her going.
You don't know exactly what she's willing to do to get what she wants.
sometimes she changes in ways that we don't expect her or want her to.
I think she's clever and everything, but I'm not sure she knows what she's getting involved in.
As an actress, Kelly delivers every single time.
Y'all remember Jimmy Darmody?
Welcome back.
Jimmy Darmody is a character played by Michael Pitt.
When we see him in the pilot, he's working for Nucky Thompson.
In the case of Jimmy, he represents the new generation. Again, the dark side of the American dream.
Jimmy is a World War I veteran just back from the war. It's put him in touch with aspects of his personality that he didn't know existed.
He has no problem aligning himself with gangsters. Nucky doesn't always approve of the way that Jimmy is going about it.
You got brains, kid. You got a future.
Look, I still got a future. We both do.
Jimmy's hungry, and he's ambitious.
He tells Nucky, the world has changed. You can't be half a gangster anymore.
Angela Darmody is the sort of wife of Jimmy.
When we meet her, Jimmy's just come home from war.
They're in this situation where they're getting to know each other again.
He comes home to a different woman, and the man who comes home is different, too.
Things were barely normal before you left, Jimmy. We hardly even knew each other.
Well, you know me a lot better now.
Gretchen Wall plays a character, Jillian.
Jillian is a showgirl. I don't think she has a heart of gold at all.
Come on, put on some clothes.
As the season goes on, you sort of see the lengths she's willing to go.
Michael Pitt, you can read his emotions in his face, his eyes.
There's something about him that has a sense of vulnerability, particularly when he tells Nucky, I'm not the kid who left.
I've seen things. I've done things.
Well, how are we going to keep you down on the farm?
Nobody move! United States Bureau of Internal Revenue. This is a raid.
Michael Shannon plays Prohibition agent Van Alden.
Nelson Van Alden is a very religious, puritanical man. He's very devoted to the cause of eradicating booze.
That's what he believes. It's who he is. And ultimately, it's going to be shaken and tested.
He creates a very interesting obstacle for Nucky.
There is something comforting about playing a character that is very single-minded in their purpose.
As the show unfolds, we have glimpses into his darker personality traits.
You want to die here or at home?
Chalky White is a character played by Michael Kenneth Williams.
He pretty much is the mayor of the black community in Atlantic City.
The African-American community was hugely important to Nucky politically in Atlantic City, and Chalky is the key to that community.
In the pilot, there's only one scene.
This was going to set the tone for who and what Chalky White is.
He had to make an impression, so I devised the shot that tracked around him a little bit.
Tell Nucky I ain't got all day. I wondered if I should play him that fearless. Marty was like, he is that confident and that strong, that he can say that in 1920 in Atlantic City. So how we working the split?
80-20 my favor. I supply the product, you and your people work your magic.
That's a whole lot of magic for only 20%.
Nucky rubbed elbows with various gangsters of the era who shipped their alcohol through his town.
He's dealing with people who become Al Capone, who become Lucky Luciano, and Arnold Rothstein. All these people are just beginning.
The character Arnold Rothstein is played by Michael Stuhlbarg.
He just exudes the power of Rothstein and the intelligence, and also the sense of real lethal danger.
What Arnold is notoriously known for is having allegedly fixed the 1919 World Series. The World Series was months ago, Lawyer Fallon, and the horseshit hasn't dried yet. He was a notorious gambler, a pool shark, got very involved in the drug trade as well as bootlegging.
Michael has done so much research that my writers and I have had him in to tell us about Arnold Rothstein because he knows more about Rothstein than we'll ever know.
Yeah.
What kind of way is that to answer a telephone?
Charlie Lucky Luciano is a Sicilian immigrant. We meet him at the side of Arnold Rothstein in Atlantic City.
Arnold taught Lucky how to talk, how to dress, to think of what he was doing as a business.
If there's anything I could do.
Oh, there is, actually. You can kill someone for me.
One of the hardest things about the role is that you know what he becomes. So you have to reverse engineer it and say, what did he start out as? What did he grow into? What did he learn?
My name's Stephen Graham, and I play Al Capone.
He literally looks like the young Al. He's certainly behaving a certain way.
Stephen's like an explosion waiting to happen.
I'm playing him when he was like 19, 20 years of age.
It's a guy who's married, who has a child, family.
I didn't want to show the Al Capone that people have seen many times before.
You can begin to see his vulnerability and his psychosis. You know, it's there. It's all there. Stephen's got it.
What happens now is I help you up. But not really.
When I read the book and realized, okay, the show is going to be called Boardwalk Empire, we obviously need the Boardwalk.
The Boardwalk was the first thing we focused on, and the first thing was where we were going to do it.
I think we wanted to go to Asbury Park, but they wouldn't allow us for whatever reason. It's New Jersey. Apparently New Jersey politics is very, very complicated.
So it was decided to build it outside in Brooklyn.
There are hardly any remnants of Atlantic City now. The original one. We were guided by photographs of the period, postcards.
Ultimately, the whole thing was built in somewhere between 2.5 and 3 months.
The boardwalk was the thing that I was really excited to see for the first time. We're on the boardwalk now, and it's, you know, it's Atlantic City in the 1920s.
It's more than a facade. If you go into the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton, these are full-blown sets.
One of our other big sets is Babette's nightclub.
There was a real Babette's, and the bar was shaped like a boat.
They've done an incredible job of recreating Babette's.
You first see Babette's in the pilot. It's the funeral party, basically, at midnight when Prohibition is enacted.
We go out there and we see probably 400 extras.
The thrill of dressing in a nightclub full of swells, having a wonderful time listening to jazz music, and then later that day having a boardwalk full of 150 extras all turned out in their holiday best. It's very, very exciting.
The costumes are very, very special. They're really who the people are.
They outfitted me in custom-tailored suits. That was a very big deal back then. A new suit was the equivalent to, I guess, a gangster nowadays getting new rims on his car. It was like about the presentation.
Putting in all the detail that we do on each and every costume makes it more real for them.
Getting to wear these incredible costumes and looking just so the part, it helps me so much.
When the sets are authentic, the wardrobe is incredible. You just put on the clothes, walk on the set, see everybody else in character, and you feel like you're there.
It's about power and the roots, the very roots of organized crime.
1920 was sex, alcohol, and jazz. You know, there's really a handful of movies and almost no television shows that have explored this era.